Welcome back, Troglodytes, to your daily dose of guitar information, the Trogly's Guitar Show. Today we're going to learn about the Gibson Joan Jett signature melody maker. This is the original signature guitar of hers that she is well known for throughout history of using. She first got it in 1977 and used it to write and play all of her top hits. We're talking things when she was still in the Runaways, as well as with the Blackhearts when she did I Love Rock and Roll and Bad Reputation. But did you know her guitar actually had a famous user before her? So she initially purchased this guitar from a guy named Eric Carmen, and he was the singer for the group the Raspberries. Their most well-known song is called Go All the Way. So her original one, despite all of the heritage and lineage that she has within it herself, it had quite the story even before she had got it, so that's kind of cool. But the guitar itself is a circa 1965 Gibson Melody Maker. Those guitars in and of themselves are fantastic. They're some of my favorite cheap vintage players guitars. They're a little bit quirky and weird, awkward, fish-shaped guitars, but they kind of feel like little baby SGs. They're very light and resonant. I mean, when you strum those things, you feel the vibrations. They just beg you to play them. So despite being a student-grade instrument, I can totally see why Joan Jett fell in love with her original one. Her particular guitar has gone through many configurations, from when she got it of a 2 humbucker setup with full control layout to this more simplified 1 humbucker style. But the 4 main features of her original one is it was refinished in white. They were normally a cherry color, that's why I think they're kind of SG-like. Hers had a bridge and tailpiece conversion done to it. Originally it would be a wrap tailpiece. Some of them even had a vibrola system on them. And as far as the pickup goes, it's known for having the Velvet Hammer humbucker. Now don't confuse that with the Velvet Brick that Gibson did in the early 80s with the Sonics. Completely different thing. The Velvet Hammer was made by a guy named Red Rhodes, and it's one of the earliest drop-in pickup replacements ever available on the market. Just those things in and of themselves can sell for a pretty penny on the used market, and they kind of have an interesting cover over top of them. And the last signature feature of these guitars are the stickers on them. They definitely pertain to Joan Jett's personality. It kind of gives the guitar that really punk vibe, which is what she's going for. And you can actually buy replica sets of those stickers on Reverb for as cheap as $20 shipped to your door. So if you ever want to buy one of these signatures and then convert it to her specs, it's not that hard to do. So enough about the original one, let's talk about this reissue. This is paying tribute to the original guitar, but not necessarily reissuing it. It is not a custom shop creation. It was built in the Gibson USA plant. It was a production line instrument. You can find them between like late 2007 to 2008. They were just a limited run. I'm not quite sure how many they made. But get this, they retailed at $839 with a case. Even adjusted for inflation, that's $1,060. These things were fantastic investments to anybody who bought them new. Because on the used market, they'll go from anywhere a low $1,000 all the way up to $18,000, with $13,000 to $15,000 kind of being that sweet spot. If these were being offered brand new today, you can bet your butt they'd be $1,500. Because just last year they did a Michael Clifford signature melody maker, which was kind of based off of this one, but had some spec changes for the 5 Seconds of Summer guide just to make it a little bit different. You can check out the full review and demo of that model here, but that thing retailed at $13.99. I think Joan Jett's a little bit more popular than him, so I could see that getting the $100 premium. But this is kind of the era where Gibson was rebirthing the Melody Maker, which is kind of a model that I'm surprised they haven't rebirthed it in 2020 as like a really cheap USA-made instrument that was good. But these tributes are finished in a very similar worn finish as her original. It's a white finish, and you're gonna notice, is this a road dog? Has somebody played the crap out of this thing? No, they have not. These actually came from the factory with a light relic job. It's not Tom Murphy, it's just kind of, let's quickly sand the edges of it to make it look a little bit worn. You can see that on the front and the back, and honestly, it's different on all of these guitars. Some of them will have like heavy neck wear, whereas other ones like this one just have a little bit going on. I don't personally understand why they would age the sides of the headstock, because how does that get aged underneath the tuner naturally? But they have the tiny Melody Maker style headstock with kind of a goofy looking Gibson logo on these guys, as well as her signature on the truss rod cover. It's still the same double cutaway Melody Maker shape, but I believe they've kind of shortened the body because the originals, they're a little bit more of like a fish shape as I was talking about earlier. They come to a little bit more of a point right here. The other thing about the originals is they have a thinner nut width, but this seems to kind of capture that more early 60s double cutaway Melody Maker before they switched to this shape. So it's got a traditional nut width here, so it's going to feel like a more modern instrument, but it still kind of gets that nice beefiness that the originals had, because that's the other feature I love about those guys. So small nut width, it's still a rounded neck, but then once you get up here, it's like this huge baseball bat on those guys. It's a lot of fun. I love those guitars. But one of the coolest features is an ebony fretboard. That is definitely not traditional specs of a 65 Melody Maker. That's something that they just kind of beefed up for these guys. I mean, can you imagine an ebony fretboard today on a guitar with a case for $839? No, you just can't get that today. They were only 5 years away from having to switch to Richlight, and that just came back this year. So after this guy sold out, in another 2 years, in 2010, they did another run of these in black, and they gave it special inlays. They called that the Black Hearts model. So you got little hearts at the 12th fret inlay. And then in 2019, they gave her an ES339 signature that you can see her tour with. I've also done a full review and demo of that one. So let's go ahead and throw this one on the workbench and take an individual look at its parts and specs now that we understand it a little bit better. Inside the Joan Jett Melody Maker, what surprises will we find? Well, the first one that showed its head is it looks like there used to be a sticker on here. And I never saw this until I was just talking about it in front of the camera. You can see the very faint outline of a heart right there. But once we remove this pickguard, you can actually see that the finish has aged itself naturally over the years, which is to be expected. I mean, believe it or not, this thing is 12 years old, so it's a little bit darker right here, whereas this was what it would look like brand new from the factory underneath the pickguard. But this is something else that shows you that this is just a tribute instead of a actual reissue exact replica of her guitar, because hers actually had 2 pickups in it at one point in time. Now whether hers started as a 1 pickup Melody Maker or a 2 pickup Melody Maker, I don't know, but no matter what, it would have had to have had some additional routing here, so this is just meant to be once again a tribute. But you can take a look at the neck tenon right there, and then down here we have WWMMJJ. Whoa, I'm seeing doubles. Likely stands for Worn White Melody Maker Joan Jett. Looks like we got a few things they could have easily cleaned up at the factory. And then as far as the bridge and tailpiece goes, it's just the standard PW branded one from this era. And the tailpiece has the version that has the tooling mark down here. And it is full weight. As far as the underside goes here, the pickup that they put in here is the Burstbucker 3. That sticker definitely looks older than 12 years old. And within the circuit, that pickup reads 8.29k ohms, but it was wound at the very end of 2007, so that is definitely original to this guitar. And as far as the wiring goes, looks like we have 2 Gibson branded pots with a ceramic capacitor. There's your output jack, and this is a kill switch. And it's not like a bucket head kill switch that you can do fast stutter effects. This is more just to turn your guitar on and off. So that way you don't have to mess with your volume settings. It's easier just to do that. If you're not using your guitar, you're singing, talking to your audience. That's something we also saw in the future Michael Clifford Melody Makers. But something interesting that I found is they didn't design this pickguard very well. You see that spot right there where it's kind of indented in? That's because the tailpiece actually catches on top of that area, and it's just kind of funny. They probably should have sculpted that away just a little bit. Which, by the way, they did use the correct vinyl plastic here. But as far as the body goes, it is just mahogany. Now, as far as how many pieces the body is, we'll have to wait till we get onto the back, because on the front, it looks pretty well matched. I mean, you can kind of tell right there, there's a seam line, and then over here where the wood grain gets a little bit more heavy, but it's really on the back where that becomes more apparent. I had to look back here before I even saw it. So like this piece, you can see a much tighter grain, and then this one's a little bit more of an open grain. And then once again, you get kind of to that tighter area right there. So it appears to be a 3-piece mahogany body. And then moving on here, it is an ebony fretboard with 12-inch radius, as Gibson normally does, with 22 frets. It's got the perloid dots on here. I just cleaned the frets off and conditioned the fretboard, so we're good to go there. As far as neck specs go, it's 1.67 inches. And by the 12th, 2.08. First fret neck depth, 0.9. And then by the 12th, it gets to 0.96. Guitar Center's old listing advertised these as a slim C neck profile. I would not agree with that. It's kind of like a medium rounded neck to me. And it is the full 24 3/4 inch scale length, so not a short scale instrument. But you can find vintage short scale Melody Makers if you want that. As far as the face of the headstock goes, your truss rod cover has Joan Jett's signature on it, and the backside's just blank. Your truss rod is there if you need to use it, and you're probably wondering, hey, why did I take these tuners off? Well, it's because the headstock was kind of dirty, and in the process of polishing it, I actually turned it into like a semi-gloss finish, because it's normally that faded lacquer satin finish, so a little bit of swirl remover would make this look almost like new. The only small defect I saw is a small chip to the finish right there. The only other small thing I saw on the face of the headstock is there's like some orange peeling effect right there. I'm wondering if there was a sticker there too or something like that. But the Guitar Center website advertised these as a Mini Grover tuner. These do not look like Mini Grovers to me. These are more like Schaller in style, or maybe even a Godot brand. But I'm not an expert when it comes to these tuners. Maybe Grover did make them. You can see the PW markings right there. We've already kind of briefly talked about the back here. I didn't see any like excessive wear. But again, you can see the factory slight relic job here all along the edges. You've got your strap button. And it's just kind of nice to see a body that doesn't have any routing back here. Like normally an SG would be back routed except for a few of the early 70s ones. And then you have your strap button right here as well. You can also see they kind of sanded some of the finish right there too. But somebody has played this guitar. This does feel like a semi-gloss finish right here, and that'll just naturally happen with satin finished guitars as you rub them, as we saw on the face of the headstock. But I would guess that this is definitely from the factory. Some of them have pretty ugly wear patterns. This is actually one I prefer. It was one of the leading reasons why I decided to document this one. But this is also a mahogany neck. And here again you can see how the white finish is aged, as is common. And if you've ever been curious how these tuners actually mount to the headstock because there's no pilot hole, they actually have their screw like built into the tuner right there. So it leaves a large hole within your headstock, and then that's just secure without any screws. And the serial number on this one dates it to late 2007, initial batch, 492nd in production for the day, so that means this is one of the last guitars before they clocked out, stamping it, and 313th day of the year. This example weighs a back-saving 6 pounds, 4.3 ounces. Let's go ahead, plug it in, and hear how that Burstbucker 3 sounds. Now that we know all about the Joan Jett signature melody maker, what are my final thoughts on this thing? Is it as good as a 65? No, it's just not. I was really hoping this would have that thin nut width and that really unique neck profile that those guys had. But sadly, I don't think there really is a true reissue of the 65 melody makers in that sense. But I get why they did this, because not everybody digs that skinny nut width. In fact, most guitars I don't like it on, but for whatever reason, those melody makers, it just works for them. They also have that really cool glossy finish that feels like glass. There's something about that 60s nitro finish. But the downfall to those guitars are the pickups are garbage in those things. They're just really cheap single coils. This thing's gonna have that humbucker straight out of the box, so you're gonna get closer to Joan Jett tones, and most people will prefer the larger nut width. But going back to the Michael Clifford signature melody maker, he really did do this guitar justice. He took this as a building platform and really did make it his own and transformed it into something beautiful. I think I prefer the finish and body woods that are used on that one. And I like some of the other features, like the output jack was on the side and it had a slightly different headstock on it that's more Gibson in style rather than the melody maker. If I had to choose between the two, I'd probably go with the Michael Clifford signature because it's just a little bit more unique. But what this guitar does have going for it that's really cool, the ebony fretboard. That's kind of become increasingly rare. I know Gibson's starting to use it again, but I doubt we will ever see it on a budget model guitar again. And this is a highly more collectible guitar. Joan Jett has secured her place in rock history, and while Michael Clifford might be a super popular guy with the ladies, not so much within the guitar realm at this point in time. He definitely has his fans, but Joan Jett definitely has a larger fan base as far as people who have disposable income that can buy signature guitars. So these are great investment pieces, I think, because the prices just always seem to be, you know, holding steady as well as going up on these, especially for nice clean ones. But as far as the tone goes, these are great rock guitars. They perform well with some distortion. Now for my own tastes, I thought the cleans were a little bit too bright. Not exactly what I was looking for. Yeah, you can roll down the tone a little bit to tame that, but I think that's what makes the distorted sound so great and clear, is because it's got that bright punchiness to it. And the other thing I enjoyed about this, it's just the whole body shape. These things are a lot of fun just to sit down and noodle around on. There's something about this whole melody maker that has this goofy body style. It's just so fun to play. So if you're a fan of Joan Jett, yes, definitely get one of these because then you can channel her playing style and have a guitar that looks very similar to hers. But if you don't care about the Joan Jett affiliation, find yourself one of the original 65s. I think you guys might enjoy them. Thank you, Troglodytes, for tuning into this review of the Gibson Joan Jett Melody Maker. Let's go ahead and check it out under Blacklight before we go and see the case. Here's the moment of truth. Let's see how many stickers were on this thing. Cool. So there's one that I wasn't even able to see. So it looks like we had a small like heart right here. So I was right about that, but this one, you literally cannot see that at all. I'm not entirely too sure what it is. It looks like some sort of a Russian symbol there, or maybe a corn stalk or sword. It almost looks like the F Fender logo right there. I'm not sure on that. Maybe someone else can point what that is. It doesn't look like you can see that other sticker here. I'd be interested to take a look at the back. Somebody definitely took inspiration from Joan Jett. As far as the back goes, I don't think I see any sticker marks on this one. Maybe we'll find something on the back of the neck though. Nope, doesn't look like it. How about the face of the headstock? Nope. That's all glowing the way it should, so I'm not sure what that orange peely part is right there. Maybe it's a Gibson factory defect. But everything is looking good on this guitar. As far as the original case goes, they're kind of slightly wider than a regular Les Paul case. You can definitely see it right here. They do that to accommodate the body style, but this one has some light scuffs. I mean, it's not too bad, but it's definitely not 100% mint condition. And you actually do get a bunch of Joan Jett CDs with this guitar, because the person sent it on to me. I might as well send it on to you guys, because I don't think I have anything that plays a CD. And another 4 of them are in there, as well as some additional case candy. But a nice white interior with great protection in here. Thank you, Troglodytes, for tuning in to this episode of the Trogly's Guitar Show. I hope you enjoyed learning about the Joan Jett signature melody maker. Unfortunately for you, this one's already been spoken for, but I'll leave a link in the description where you can possibly find another. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and we will see you tomorrow on the next episode. Take care.